Everybody.
Bobby Bonds, third Memorial Golf outing.
It's the Bobby Bonds Memorial Golf Foundation. It's a great committee, great outing. We're excited to keep growing every year, but a lot of people out here helping support the community of people struggling from addiction and who are touched by addiction, and it's all for a good cause. So I'm really excited about the turnout, and hopefully next year we get some more.
How many guys you got here golfing here today?
We have about 20 foursomes, so we're growing in size. It's great.
Okay. All right. So when you're going to tee off? You're going to tee off?
Tee off's at 1, and we got some fun prizes and events going on as well. Some hole-in-one competitions, some putting contest competitions. It'll be a good time out there.
Oh, thank you very much.
Thank you.
How you doing?
Hi, how are you?
What's your name?
I'm Michael Kelly. I started with Bobby Bonds on the railroad in 1976.
Okay.
Bobby and I knew one another up until the time of his death. Bobby Bonds Memorial Fund, which helps recovering alcoholics and addicts in recovery.
Okay.
Thanks to Bobby Bonds, I'm coming up on 30 years clean and sober.
Hey, I'm Bill Myers. This is Pat Finn. We represent injured railroad workers, so we know Bobby from the railroad. Well, we're here. We're here because it's a great cause. Bobby established, and it's continuing in his name. And we're here to support people trying to overcome addictions and keep them in recovery.
Oh, it's a very good thing. Thank you very much, guys, and have a great day out there golfing. God bless you, man.
Thank you. Danny Martino. I'm here at the Bobby Bonds fundraiser. We're putting a bunch of people together out here to golf, and what we're doing is raising funds for people who need money to get into detoxes or rehabs. Bobby's family's so generous to put this thing together with Albert Perry and Daniel Manili and me and Dutch here. We're both from South Jersey. We drove up from South Jersey just to come out here and contribute our money and to help people, man. And this is all in honor of Bobby Bonds, man. He was an amazing man, great guy, and we're here because we want to show our love to the Bonds family and this beautiful fundraiser that's going on. So thanks for having us today.
Well, thank you very much. Did you guys both worked with Bobby, or you just became friends? How'd that come to be? Go ahead.
How did we get to know Bobby?
Yeah.
I sponsored him for about 25 years.
There you go.
And then we just became friends. You know, that's what happens in here.
Yeah. It's a fellowship, right?
Fellowship.
Yeah. Fellowship.
I met Bobby at the one of the Philadelphia conventions, and he was all involved in service and helping people back then. This was in the mid '80s, and he's just been a pillar in Narcotics Anonymous, helping addicts. And look, he passed away, and he's still helping addicts. That's the kind of guy he is, straight up.
Let me ask you, what would you say to Bobby right now if he was able to watch the video and listen to you right now? What would you say about him
No,
right
Bobby,
now?
you're not allowed to tickle my daughters.
Bobby, you should be scared because your daughter's growing up and she's a beautiful
Bobby,
young woman, and the guys are going to be all over her, and I know what you would
He
do.
used to tickle my girls till they would pee themselves, and then I told him he wasn't allowed at my house anymore. So the next weekend, guess who's sleeping on my front porch? Bobby. Because he said he felt safe.
There you go. Well, he's quite a character
What
then,
a
right?
guy, yeah. You better believe it. Let me tell you what else we did. We were going up to the up to the AA Board of Trustees meeting, and me and Bobby stopped to take a piss on the New Jersey Turnpike, right? And that's how we got to have something for the old timers, because we said, why the fuck are all these newcomers getting all the goodies, right? What about the people that have been around for a long time? And that's when they started giving the mugs to the old timers.
There you go.
And we went to the AA Board of Trustees meeting, and they gave us 47 pounds of information from AA World Services, and that was the stepping stone that led to our service structure, NA World Services. So Bobby did more than his share of completing the cycle.
Well, thank you for your statements, and I'm sure He's looking down on you guys right now.
I could tell you stories
You better
all day
golf
about
good.
Bobby Bonds.
You got to golf good today.
I ain't got just 5 minutes. I got about 5 years.
Well, maybe he wants you. Maybe he
wanna
wants
put
you
a
to golf
movie?
bad because he wants to golf better than you today. He don't want you to
can't
golf
better
good.
than us. With his eyes closed. He's a good golfer, Bobby.
He was.
There you go, man. Well, have a great afternoon and have a nice, birdie or hole-in-one, right? They say. Right?
Bobby, this is for you, brother. All this, man. Keep coming back. We love you.
We love you,
There
Bobby.
you go, man.
So I'm Danielle Bonds. I'm Bobby's second daughter. My dad was a real inspiration to me. I'm now following in his footsteps, hoping to work with addicts, addict drugs and alcohol. I'd one day like to be in a facility and just continue saving lives like he did. So thanks everyone for coming out. It means more than you know.
Well, this is a great thing being out here and, for honor your father. There's a lot of people here golfing. You have all his friends here and people supporting.
Oh, it's great. I love it. I love hearing these stories and crack up. And I just know if he'd be sitting here smoking his cigar, on his phone, screaming at Dutch, all that.
Did he enjoy golfing?
Oh, he loved golfing. It was his thing. He did it so often. Every day, where's Dad? He's golfing.
There you go. Well, thank you very much. And, you're a beautiful person. He has a lot of beautiful friends here who's solely loved by a lot of people. So
Yep,
that's very
true.
good. This is, all right. What's your name? Go ahead. Rana.
I'm Rana Bonds.
Okay.
I was married to Bobby for 19 years, wonderful years, and this is our third annual Bobby Bonds Memorial Foundation. We've got a great turnout today, lots of golfers, great prizes, a wonderful day for golf, and we're just thrilled at the turnout. And this is all the money is to help, addicts that are living a life from active addiction to active recovery, as well as in assisting the at-risk family. So it doesn't happen by itself. There are lots of people involved, but more importantly, the people that are here to support us. We thank you so much from the bottom of our hearts from the foundation.
It takes a lot of hard work and
It's
put
worth
these things
it.
together, right?
It's absolutely worth it, and I'm thrilled. I'm absolutely thrilled.
All right. Well, thank you very much for your beautiful day. It's not raining, so
Nope,
we got
it's
lucky.
a good day.
Okay, we have Bobby's son here and
yourself.
mom,
I'm
and
Andrew.
tell everybody about yourself. Go ahead.
I'm
The youngest.
the youngest. I'm middle handicapper,
Right.
about an 11 compared to my dad's 4.
Did your father teach you how to golf and get you into golf?
Yes.
Go ahead.
Yes. He was a big reason I'm playing golf still.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When Andrew was 7 years old,
Right.
we were down in Orlando, Florida, Champions Gate, and Bobby had him out playing 18 holes at the age of 7. Yep.
I hit my first 50-foot putt that day.
There you go. You never know.
Yeah.
You could be the next Tiger Woods or Arnold Palmer.
I hope
who's your
so.
favorite? Who's your favorite golfer? Yeah. Who's your favorite guy?
Young guy, Ricky Fowler. Old guy, Tiger Woods.
There you go.
Tiger
There it
Woods
is.
is old?
Well, I mean,
Then I'm ancient.
Well, thank you. Thank you for having us and coming down
Thank
here.
you for being
this
here.
is a good event.
Thank you so
Elwood
much.
was my friend. Elwood, my sponsor. Elwood was best friends with Bobby and
Oh.
kids. Talked so much great things about him.
Yeah, Bobby was incredible. He
Gentlemen,
really
ladies,
was.
thanks for coming out. My name's Al Perry. I won't be playing with you, but I'll see you tonight at dinner. Thank you so much. Thanks, Al. Thanks for supporting us. My name's Al Perry. I'm fortunate enough to be chairman of the Bobby Bonds Memorial Foundation, and I had a little incident where I'm not able to play today, but I'll see you guys at dinner tonight.
Okay, and then all the guys are here. They're assembling. They're going to go out and.
Yes, they're going to go out, they're going to come back, they're going to enjoy themselves, have a nice meal, and they're going to spend money at the auction for at-risk families and families of addiction.
Okay.
So that's what we're here to do. We're here to save lives. We're the
Thank you very
soldiers,
much.
baby.
There you go.
Put on your helmets. Today's the day. Enjoy
you.
yourselves. Thank you.
Gentlemen, good afternoon. My name is Chris Wilkinson. I'm the golf professional here. On behalf of the staff and the members, we'd like to welcome you. We have a great day planned for you. Not going to rain. It's rained every day for the last month, so you guys got a good day for it. Golf course is still in great shape out there. We're excited to have you. If you have any questions before you go, please don't hesitate to see a member of our staff. Going to go over the format for you really quickly. we are playing a shamble, which means everyone is going to tee off. You are going to pick the best drive, and then you are going to all play your own ball until it is holed. You are then going to take the best score of the foursome and put that as your team score on each hole. We're going to have prizes for first, second, and third place in the team event. We are also going to have a closest to the hole prize on 8, and the long drive contest on 16, and there's hole-in-one contests on all par 3s, and the chance to win $10,000 on the 12th hole. Just to note, because it's been so wet over the course of the last month and all summer, the golf course drains great. It's in great shape out there, but there are some soft spots. Please, while you're driving, please be careful with the way that you brake. Just be slow and look for low-lying areas that are going to be a little soggier than some of the other areas. We also ask that you keep the carts on the path only on par 3s and the 18th hole. Other than that, you can take the carts where you would like until you get to the stakes in the fairway. When you see stakes in the fairway, we ask that you go to the nearest cart path at that point. Okay? So just par 3s and the 18th hole, please keep your carts on the path. Other than that, have fun. Please keep up with the group in front of you for pace of play reasons. I'm going to turn it over to Andrew here with some notes about the putting contest. Good luck out there.
Hey everyone, Andrew Mongaluzzi. It's a pleasure to have you all out here. Just a few notes about the putting contest. It's going to be between 18 and 1, so when you get done on 18, go to the putting green at 1. It will be $20 for 3 shots at the putt. If you knock it in, and multiple people knock it in, there will be a sudden death, but the prize is $500 for the pro shop. So if you don't have cash, find someone to borrow it from. That'll be a fun time, and like Chris said, there's a lot of other prizes out there, so I hope everyone enjoys their day, and we'll make this a good outing, all right?
Okay, one last note before you go to your holes. We had a Mizuno wedge that was left up on the putting green, 56-degree Mizuno wedge. Anyone missing one? We have it right here for you. Okay. That's it. You're free to go out to your holes. The gentlemen that are wearing the blue shirts are going to be driving out there. If anyone does not know where they were going, they're going to help you find your holes out there. Have some fun. Play well.
Play ball. So do I'm supposed to take it out? I don't know.
Shouldn't be hard because we're trying to spend here. Okay. Have fun. You're going to drive out that way. And you'll have Chris out there. You're going to go to the other side. Okay. Drive out that way.
Here we are in Philadelphia, baby. Bobby Bonds' 3rd annual golf outing. Here we go.
Now, we're gonna golfing now.
We're gonna try to find Dutch. We want to see that old bastard hit or drive.
What's the potholes?
What, this one? This one?
Don't run anybody over. Okay, here we are. Pulling up. You went up the one way. Here we are. Just gonna tee off. What do we have?
Come back.
Oh, I had him. He's a southpaw.
Get up. Get up. I sure to shit. It looked good though. Yeah. I thought you were going to bounce off that top and go over.
Come on, Philly.
Oh man.
You gotta get the Godfather now.
Godfather.
Now you gotta go
The
on that
Godfather
side.
of golf.
He didn't baptize me today.
First off, while we're here, this is, as many of you know, this is a foundation, a memorial foundation that celebrates, number one, Bobby's life, and continue the kind of spirit that he embodied, which is giving and helping others. All right? This foundation strives to combat addiction with addicts and their families and the things that they go through. And that's why we're here tonight. Bobby was my sponsor. I'm in 12-step recovery, and Bobby was my sponsor for the last 10 years. And for anybody that's not familiar with recovery, that's kind of like a mentor, therapist, drill sergeant, and a little dash of mommy daddy thrown in. That's what a sponsor is, for anybody that knows and anybody that doesn't know. You know, most people in this room know Bobby. You know, in fact, it's tough for me even to talk about this stuff. I had all this stuff thought out, but you know what, it's very emotional. It's still new for me. It's new for a lot of us. Look, Bobby was a great, great man. He was wildly imperfect, right? Very colorful. Well said. Right? Very colorful. He would challenge any fixed ideas that you might have, any group think that people go through. He was a rabble-rouser. He was a rebel. He loved his family. He loved his friends. Did a fair bit of butt-kicking, right? You know. And we miss him. The other night, Bobby came to me in a dream. He did. He came to me in a dream. And he said, Billy, it's me. And I was like, Bobby, oh my God. I can't believe this. This is unbelievable. You got to tell me what's it like. And he said, well, I have some good news and I have some bad news. I said, tell me. He said, the good news is that we have meetings every hour up here. 24 hours, 7 days a week. Meetings. I said, Bobby, that's great. What's the bad news? You're speaking next Wednesday night. So, if Bobby could talk to us today, he would say how proud he is that we're here. How proud he is that we're supporting the things in life that he liked to do, which was give. And that's, you know, give and be of service to our families, to our communities, to the still suffering addict. That's what Bobby embodied, all right? If he could talk to us, he would also tell us how happy he is. How happy he is that we're here, you know, hanging out together, celebrating, raising money for a good cause. So we're going to start off with that thought. And all of you, I'm sure at least a lot of you, have your own personal, you know, souvenirs of Bobby time, you know. So we're going to think about those things while we go through the stuff we do. Listen, a couple just announcements is we have, if anybody's not familiar, a silent auction going on back there. There's a lot of goodies, and some of them you'll get real cheap. So you should go back and check it out. We're going to have a live auction later too. Okay? Let's start off, because while we're still doing the salads and going into dinner, first I want to introduce the board. These are the people that put this together and help do this and help, you know, the still suffering addict, that help families that struggle with addiction. And all of us, I venture to submit, all of us have experienced that in some way, in some fashion, to some degree. So I'm going to say your name. I'm going to ask you to stand up for a little bit of applause. First, of course, the founder, president, and wife is Ronna Bonds. Ronna, if you can stand up. I'm going to ask you to continue standing. Next is the board chair, the infamous Al Putty. And I'm going to ask the board members to please stand up so that we can recognize you. Lisa Baskin. Her other half, Jeff Baskin. John Galuzzi, you're here, I know, I saw you, there you are. Dan Manili, our golf pro. Carmen Bianco, come on up, stand up, please. And then the final is Tony Iannone, and he unfortunately couldn't make it tonight. So let's give the whole board a round of applause. Okay, thank you guys. First, we're going to start off. We had a day of golf, so let's find out what happened on that day of golf. Andrew, you're around, and come on up. Andrew's going to give us the results of today's golf outing, the winners and the losers. Good to see you, buddy.
I'm not mentioning losers.
It would be fun if you
Hey
could.
everyone, Andrew Mongaluzzi, chairman of the golf committee this year. I hope everyone had fun out there. The conditions got pro-like by the end, but I have a list of winners, not losers, as Billy had mentioned, in front of me, and we're going to start with the prizes for the closest to the pin, longest drive, and putting contest. I'm going to save putting contest to the last because I'm still bitter about it, but closest to the pin, which was on hole number 8, was Jerry Rafter at 6 feet and 3 inches. Okay, bear with. Clearly not closest to the prizes. Okay, long drive, there's no distance. This one's kind of arguable, but I somewhat believe it. Kevin Newby. Okay, and putting contest is Dan Manili. Which, if you guys don't know, every year we have a putting contest. You can donate $20. You get 3 balls as many times as you want. If you sink it, you go on to a sudden death, which is always out here on 18. It's a good time. You can come early next year, watch it. Gets intense. I'm never good at it, but. Thanks, brother. Okay, we will start with 3rd place for the overall day of golf. So, with a score of -1 in 3rd place was the group of Matt Rupert, Rick Bradley, Nick Anastasi, and Max Hirsch. Come on up and get your prizes. They all left? Okay.
Still out there.
More for me.
We're doing another round.
Okay, 2nd place with a score of -2. These were all by 1 stroke. Was Pete O'Donnell, Dave Waterman, Avery White, and Kevin Murphy.
What up? Tonight's program. What up?
The prizes, by the way, for 3rd place was $75 gift cards per person. 2nd place is $125 per person. And 1st place is $250 gift cards per person, per golfer. And in 1st place with -3, so by 1 stroke they won, Jerry Rafter, Nikki DeChico, John Gerwitz, and Al Perry III. And again, -3. Should have had a chance. Congrats. First place. Oh yeah, absolutely. I think we're missing one. Who was Johnny? He was here. Johnny, I'm gonna keep calling you out. Where are you at?
There he is.
I'll take the sound with the mic on out of There you go. You can use that for the auction. One more round of applause for our winners for the day. So
I'm gonna turn it back over to Billy Wolf. Yeah, keep an eye on the website for next year's golf outing. It's always a fun time, and clearly the scores are close.
All right. How about all that?
For them?
Yeah, for them. Last year, I hit an 82. Out there in the course, no. It got worse on the second hole. It did. It got worse. I hit like an 85 on the second hole. Went downhill. I stopped around 4. All right, I think we're still waiting for dinner to come out. So we might as well use some of that time. Al, you want to come up and do your bit? Well, because we're still waiting for dinner, why don't we just jump this up here? Why don't you come on up, Al? Everyone knows Al Perry? Welcome, Al.
My name's Al Perry. Hey, Albert. All one name. First of all, I look around. I don't need a microphone. If you need a microphone, you got to check yourself into a hospital if you can't hear me. So what I'm going to say to you is I'm overwhelmed by the amount of people that have come out tonight to support this event. Naturally, I'd like to thank the people, the soldiers on the ground that have put this together. It's easy to thank the guy that digs deep in his pockets. That's the easy part. Writing the check is the easy part, believe it or not. And most of the guys that write them know that. It's the guys on the ground and the soldiers on the ground that carry this message of hope and promise of freedom. It's never... I love Bobby. I tried to beat him up. He ran several times. He would go, "Why do you always have to resort to violence?" He would yell as he would go, "You're incorrigible," he would yell. That was his statement. And he's right. He was right. But you know what? Being incorrigible allowed me to reach out to all of you to help me become a better person. You know, so I humbly appreciate that for you taking part in my life with my family and my friends to make Al Perry the best I could be. I'm never going to be as good as all, but I'm going to be the best I can be. The honorees this evening are giving our keynote speaker. Lisa Thomas, lawyer, will tell you all about her journey. And Dan Hilferty will stand up here and receive an honor that we'd love to give out to someone that has stood behind us since moment one, not day one, since moment one when asked. You know, the honor of being part of this is what it's all about. My friend Danny Manili's not around. I had Bobby would say I'm going to make it all about me. I had a stroke 12 days ago. And you wouldn't know it because I didn't lose my speech. Tough luck. But the therapist came by and they said they can't even help me anymore. In the next 2 weeks, I'll be back to 100%. So I was going to have Danny stand to my left. Because to help in case, because that's where I'm leaning a little left here. That toddler, you know when a toddler starts going this way and can't stop? That's what happened to me. So here I am to tell you that I know why I'm here. I know that I have more to do as a soldier in a program of recovery that I live in, along with Billy. I know that what we have to do here, those that are in that same program with me, you got to go out next year. We got to bring more addicts in here to support this event. All right? They don't know what they're missing. They don't know the love. You know, my sponsor's in the room tonight. You know, and he and I got to share something about Bobby because we knew him very well, to Phil, who was kind enough to come down and put this all together with the video thing for us. Billy said it best. Bobby was a very, very flawed individual. I loved every goddamn flaw he had. Every one. And, you know, there's a couple laughs that we all have. And Carmen's in the room, and one of our board members, and Carmen was the weak link. When Bobby wanted chocolate, and we'd say, "You can't have chocolate." He'd go, "Carmen, sneak me up." And Carmen would bring him chocolate. So we named him the weak link. you know, I had the pleasure of spending, I don't know, maybe the last 60 days at Bobby's bedside. And I was rubbing his feet one day. That's an attractive vision, right? And he's standing there and he goes, wait a minute, hold a minute. He goes, see if this foot fits up your ass. And I just thought, now I'm rubbing his feet. The next wonderful thing was, at the end, as all, hopefully none of us, you know, you have a tough time standing there and peeing. Well, I had to hold Bobby while I peed. And that's a story that people go, what? That's true love. I had true love for Bobby Bonds. And I know that he had true love for all of you. And I know that I had that same love for all of you. Thank you so much for making me part of a very, very special thing. And I hope the next chairman down the road, all right, can have the same feelings I have about what it's like to be part of this very, very, very special Bobby Bonds Memorial Foundation. Ronna, Danielle, Andrew, they're family to me. People in this room, they're family to me. You know, my brother, Nicky DeChico, who won the event, is a brother to me. You know, when there's no bids in the crowd tonight, I'll point to Nicky, he'll point to me, and I'll figure out the number. You'll see how that happens. My family is over here, my daughter-in-law, my son, my daughter's fiance, my wife, who I can't forget, who's tried to forget me, but she has the disease. And I'm going to say this in closing. She caught the disease, and that disease is alperiitis. And it's incurable, or she'd be gone by now. Thank you so much. I love you all.
Al, that was very touching and wonderful. But one of Al's main jobs was to introduce our first speaker here. Oh, I'm sorry. Yes. We'll go with that, Al. We'll go with that. Joy Douglas from Harwood House is here with us. Come on up, Joy. Joy's going to share a little bit with us.
Maybe. I'm very grateful to this foundation tonight. I am the director of Harwood House. We're a drug and alcohol halfway house, a couple miles down the road. We've been there for about 43 years now. And the foundation supplied a donation to Harwood. We were able to purchase 33 mattresses for all our guys, all new bedding for all our guys, and this was a big deal for us. People that come to our facility are homeless, and I can still see their faces. We had 2 separate deliveries when all the stuff start coming in for them, how excited they got. And it just put it in perspective once again of the things I might take for granted, the things we take for granted, these little things that an addict in recovery just coming in, getting clean, it meant the world to them. And on behalf of the board of directors, we have some of our board here, some of our employees here. I'd like to thank you guys for the generous donation you made to us. And then on a personal level, I'm a recovering addict. This past year and a half has been the most trying time of my 26 years in recovery. I don't want to cry, so I'm not going to. A year and a half ago, my oldest daughter, Carly, was diagnosed with cancer. She has ovarian cancer. She was at chemo today. My middle daughter, Tracy, was clean for a little while. She's an addict. She started using again. She has a 7-year-old son that my husband and I are now raising. And I was really overwhelmed, stressed out. I have little Gabriel now living with me and my husband, and we were struggling trying to find him a good school to go to in the neighborhood, and I was not getting anywhere. All the second grades were full, so I called my buddy Al, and as Al does, he makes a couple phone calls here and there. My grandson is enrolled in 2nd grade at St. Bernadette's school. And then Al called me to say that Bobby Bond Foundation was going to pay for Gabe's tuition for the year. And don't cry, you know, it's tough when, and when Al told me this, I just like started crying on the phone. Thank you is not enough. My gratitude speaks daily. I made a deal with Al for my recovery purposes too. My sponsor is in the room over there. And I know that Bobby is looking down on all of us tonight, and he's smiling at all the kindness and generosity that is in this room right now. And I could see him still sitting at the Wednesday night meeting at his home group when I would go there every so often. That thank you again.
Thank you, Joy. All right, we're going to do 2 quick things before we eat our dinner. First off is we have a special treat. If everyone looks under their bread plate, if you find a blue ticket, we want you to hold on to that because you are going to be asked to leave. No. We're going to tell you later what these blue tickets are for, but they're really special. So hold on to them. And now we're going to give us a little bit more words before we start our
Dan, I'm going to need you with a pencil and paper. I need you with a pen and paper. I get a pen. Come on, you're going to do half the job as usual. Hello again, Al Perry. I'm sorry I'm here twice. We're going to do something a little different. There isn't enough items for you guys to bid on live and silent. So what we've all seen done, and anybody that's been involved in charitable events, we're going to give you an opportunity. You don't have to do this, and please don't feel badly if you don't. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to go around the room and I'm going to ask if you'd like to make a cash or by check or whatever donation. We accept credit cards. Danny just said we accept credit cards also. I don't. Yeah, somebody else food stamps. No, we don't take those. Please keep those. And the checks and/or cash will be given to the Bobby Bonds Memorial Foundation. There's a guy in the room tonight, Putti from South Philadelphia, who runs a lot of recovery houses down there. Who we've partnered with the scholarship. A lot of the guys that come out of treatment, they have nowhere to go. Wives, husbands, guys and gals. Wives, husbands don't want them back. Where are they going to go? So we meaning the Bobby Bonds Memorial Foundation, we subsidize that first 30 days in one of Butchie's recovery houses. And last year we were able to send in a ton of guys, and there's still money left. And this year we're going to give more money to send more people. And so for that first 30 days, you get your life back in order. Then maybe your husband, wife, or children speak to you again. Maybe. But at least you got 30 days to figure it out. So what I'm going to do, on behalf of the Bobby Bonds Memorial Foundation, and please do not feel obligated. And I mean that from the bottom of my heart, except for a few of you that I need to feel obligated. You know who you are. So is anybody willing to donate $1,000? Raise your hand, and you have to give out your name, and I apologize for that, to the Bobby Bonds Memorial Foundation. $1,000 donor.
All right.
Thank you. Dan, Bob. Where? In the back. David, thank you, David. That's David. That's David. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Anyone willing to give $750 to the Bobby Bonds Memorial Foundation? $500. $500 donation, Bobby Bonds Memorial Foundation. Tyler, thank you. Maureen, thank you. Thank you. Lise, thank you. Thank you, guys. This table has 2. I think. Yeah, in the end. This This table has two, the daughter and the mother. We'll worry about the father later. Thanks, Jeff. How about $250 donations? Jack, Jerry, you guys got this covered around the room? Well, you gotta ask. Go over. Who's giving out these certificates? Danielle, where are you? What are you doing, babe? Did you go to sleep? You were giving stuff out. I know you're sitting. Are you nuts? Let's go. Get out there and find out. Can I have the hands raised again for the $250 donors, please? And please keep them raised, and I hate to do that to you, until Danielle gets around and figures it out. Thank you. I'm expecting this will be a few also. So we're going to ask Sophia, come here, you're in charge of this. Any $100 donors to the Bobby Bonds Memorial Foundation. Sophia's going to be coming around each table, because it seems like there's almost a person at almost every table. And Sophia's got a pen and a paper, and she's going to get the names and phone numbers of those $100 donors. Thank you so much. And let me tell you something. You being here is donation enough. Thank you all for all you do. Joy, thank you for being so special in the recovery community. And thank you to all of you for making this thing work. Thanks an awful lot.
Next up, we're going to have Ron Bonds, the founder, president, and wife of Bobby, come up and say some words. Please welcome Ron.
Try not to speak from behind the podium because I really don't like to. I would like to welcome everybody here tonight. An event like this doesn't happen on its own, and I'd like to thank my board and Andrew Mongaluzzi for doing a great job on this tonight. So thank you very, very much. Please give a round of applause. I would also like to take a minute and introduce Bobby's and my children, but I only see one in the room. Are they all?
There's two coming in.
Oh, there's two coming in? Here they are.
Where's the little?
He's at the bar.
All right, well, anyway, I would like to introduce Bobby's and my children. First, our oldest, Max. Max lost his life 6 months after Bobby passed away to an accidental heroin overdose. So Max is not with us, but he's with Bobby, and he's also with his mother. And you know, we think of him often, and he is forever in our hearts and in our minds. I'd like to introduce Bobby's second oldest, and my stepdaughter, Maddie Bonds. Maddie Bonds Klein. And then comes Danielle Bonds. And then bringing up the rear is our youngest, Andrew. When a couple of us got together and started thinking about what could we do to honor Bobby. Everybody knows that Bobby was an avid golfer, 4 handicap, 7 handicap, whatever it was, but he could also take your money on the golf course like nobody else there was. The golf folks said, okay, we've got to do a golf outing. And at that time also with us was Dan Hilferty Jr., Ryan Boyce, and Kevin Newby at the time. And we said, okay, we've got to do a golf outing. And we were like, okay, how are we going to get this started? And Dan Jr. said, let me see what I can do. And a few days later, He came back to those of us on the golf committee and told us that Independence Blue Cross would like to be our gold sponsor. And that was year 1. Now in our 3rd year, Independence Blue Cross, their support of the Bobby Bonds Memorial Foundation and our mission of helping the addict that wants to move from active addiction to active recovery, along with the at-risk family, continues to be at the forefront. This is the 3rd year that they've sponsored this outing and event, and we're extremely, extremely thankful for that. As everybody may or may not know, Bobby had a favorite saying, "Don't quit 5 minutes before the miracle happens." And with this, the Miracle Award was created. I would like to present the 2018 and the very first Miracle Award to Dan Hilferty, President, CEO, Independence Blue Cross.
Good evening, everyone. Ronna, thank you very much to you and your children. I didn't know your father really well. I got to hear your father speak twice at annual family meetings, and he mesmerized me. In fact, I remember where I was sitting for each of those meetings. And Ronna, you and your children should be so proud of the impact that he has had on not just the ripple effect, not just hundreds of people, thousands of people, potentially millions of people. So I applaud you for the incredible work. Al Perry, we've known each other off and on for a lot of years, but it wasn't until my being introduced to this incredible program and now the Bobby Bonds Foundation that I knew Al was amazing all those years. I didn't know how amazing, Al. You're an incredible individual.
Right, Al.
So I am very fortunate. I see these signs, Heroes Among Us, or a Miracle Award, and I don't feel like a hero. I feel like a very fortunate individual to be the head of a company like Independence Blue Cross. And I have some of my colleagues here. I'd like them to please stand. And Kevin and Patrick. I ask you to bear with me because we are here to listen to Lisa Thomas-Laurie, and I've known Lisa for a lot of years and just really excited to interact with you. But I do have a story that I have to tell, and I'll start at the end. Independence Blue Cross, bar none, across the country is answering the call about addiction issues. And we pride ourselves for being one of the first insurers in the country. Hey, by the way, you may have billing problems with us. See those guys over there. But the truth of the matter is, Independence Blue Cross answers the bell. We have a comprehensive contract with our members. If they're referred to 30 days inpatient or beyond, we work with them to make sure that they get those services. No one who is ready or might not know that they're ready, but is ready to go for inpatient coverage, they should not be denied that because of money or anything. So you'll see there was an ad in Sunday's paper, and we're about to have a program. The Surgeon General is coming to Philadelphia this coming Tuesday. The program is called Someone You Know, because we firmly believe, and Steve Furrow, the head of the Independence Foundation, Patrick Flynn, very much involved in putting this program together. We believe that we have to destigmatize the whole idea of addiction, that a disease is a disease. And so once we begin to see that our brothers, our sisters, our siblings, our cousins, whoever it might be, are involved in one way, shape, or form with recovery, the stigma goes away. And then we can all build a circle of love and trust around people who need it. So I'm somebody that sits in a position of independence, Al, where I can make decisions to get us involved, and incredible people go out and run these programs. So we will continue to fight this opioid crisis, reducing the number of days that a doctor can prescribe, making sure that if someone is ready to be handed off from an emergency room to recovery services, we call it a hot handoff, that they are able to do that. It's not perfect, but it's a start. So I'm so proud to be the person that sits at the top of Independence for now, to make sure that these things happen. But here's we're going to walk around because I just have to tell you a quick story, and it ends up where it all started with Bobby Bonds, Al Putty, and my new friend Carmen, which I'll get to you at the end too. So on January 4th, 2014, I was sitting in my kitchen eating my life cereal. I was the original Mikey. I squished it and poured out the milk. I've been doing it for 45, 50 years. And unbeknownst to me, this guy right here, David, had a conversation with my son, Dan, about recovery services. Didn't know it. Didn't know David. Never met him. Dan comes in, he's outside, pacing, smoking a cigarette. I'm looking at him. He comes in and says, Dad, I gotta talk to you. He said, I can't kick these opioids. I can't kick them. So what are you gonna do about it? He said, well, I know how much you love Karen. I've enrolled myself. Can you take me up there? And it started the greatest journey in our family's history. It was amazing. And then around this young man finding himself came one of my heroes. And then there's a bunch of heroes that start. I'm going to finish with Dan, but then, you know, David, he's a hero. This guy, Bob Black. How many people does Rob sponsor in this room? Well, he's a hero.
Yeah.
This guy, Patrick Flynn, 4 years today. He's my hero. And you know what? The sky is the limit for this guy. And by the way, I don't mean to exclude anybody, but these are the folks I see all the time, and if I don't recognize them, I'll hear about it later. But this guy, Kevin Newby, another guy, a hero. Now where's that Andrew? Where did he run off to? Andrew Von Lucy, stand up. And the reason I'm doing this is because what this is about, it's a web of trust and honesty, maybe a little spirituality for some folks thrown in. But without heroes among you being there for each other, led by leaders like Bobby Bonds, Al Perry, my new friend Carmen, and here's why Carmen's like me. Carmen's a foot soldier. Bobby would drag him from work into places, neighborhoods, cellars, to find somebody that they work with, to bring them to recovery. I want to be you. When I retire, I want to be a foot soldier. I want to be directed to figure out how we can be more helpful. So congratulations to you. So, you know, I guess before I close with Bobby Bonds, I got to tell you, it's a really cool thing when, you know, they talk about the student becomes the teacher. I look up to this guy every day, every single day. He's the most amazing young man I've ever met. And thank God he's here. So keep doing what you're doing. On behalf of my family, on behalf of my incredible son, Dan, on behalf of all my colleagues at Independence Blue Cross, thank you for what you do. And Ronna, until I get fired, we are the lead sponsor of this event. Thanks, everybody.
Wow. Let's give Dan Hilferty another round. Wow. Dan was naming names. That's good. I don't know about anybody else, but I just had a shift on my view of corporate America. Anybody else with me on that? Man, that blew me away. That blew me away. That was strong. Huh. Imagine that. All right. Next, we're going to bring up Carmen Bianco, and I got to tell you, we took shifts at the hospital with Bobby. So I got to know Carmen at a critical time, and at a bonding time. When you go through these things, and if you haven't, I'm sure a lot of you have, and I know there was others too by the bedside and by the hospital, you form a bond that lasts. You form a bond that lasts, and I was very impressed with Carmen. Carmen was loving and caring. We took turns sneaking the Italian water ice to Bobby, and everybody would get pissed. Let's bring Carmen up here.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. I have to tell you, you were giving Bobby Italian water ice. You talked me into a Tootsie Roll. You know, I have to tell you, to stand in front of you tonight is an absolute honor. To listen to these stories, I can't tell you, and I guess I'm no different than anyone else in this room. I can't tell you how many times I've almost lost it so far. It's hard to sit here when you realize what all of us. There's no one in this room that's not touched by this. So it's just hard to realize that we're all going through this, but we're all each other's strength as we do this. My job here tonight, my role here tonight is, I'm honored to be the one that gets to introduce our keynote speaker. This individual has been part of our families, most of our families, for many, many decades. It's someone that was welcomed into our homes in the afternoon and in the evenings. It's someone that we listened to intently, we listened to because we knew that there was integrity and there was honesty in the stories. And just like life, just like we're talking here tonight, just like we're talking about stories about Bobby that has impacted all of us, life takes you on a journey. And none of us really understand where that journey is going to lead us tomorrow. Today is today, tomorrow could take us down a different path. And Lisa certainly has a story to tell us tonight about her journey both in the news and her journey that she's taken on recently. So without going too much further, I'd like to introduce tonight's, and I'm honored to do this, tonight's guest speaker, Lisa Thomas-Laurie. She's an icon in Philadelphia.
I'm going to start out behind the podium. I have a little issue with, I'll get to telling you why, but I have a little issue with nerve damage in my legs. And there was a time when I didn't think I'd get out of a wheelchair, but I did. When Ronna Bonds and Carmen Bianco emailed me actually, and asked for me to be a part of this evening, I was thrilled to do so. They reached me through a former colleague and friend, Cheryl Mettendorf, and she explained to me what it was about, what they wanted from me, and I could relate. I said, whatever it is, I'm going to make this work. Because not only could I relate to what was happening here with Bobby Bonds and his legacy and what he tried to do for so many, many people and what he did accomplish, was something that my son sort of led me to attempt to do. My younger son couldn't be here tonight, but he was the one who talked me into writing a book. I retired in 2016 and I had no intentions of writing a book. I wasn't sure what I was going to do. I had had a second bone marrow transplant for my illness, and I thought it probably was about time to hang it up. I said, you know, there's something else out there. God will lead me in the right way. And I said goodbye and had a wonderful farewell at Channel 6. But Leland, my baby, 33 years old now, kept saying, Mom, you gotta write a book, you gotta write a book. And as a mother, I was thinking of this little boy who just thought it was cool to write a book. What I didn't realize, he sat down one day and he said, Mom, I am serious, you haven't started. Don't you understand how many people you could help? And then I thought about it a little differently. And I realized what I had been through. I realized what I may have been a little frightened to revisit. But him saying that made me aware of the story I had to tell and the hope that I could. If I could only help a handful of people, I thought it was worth it. So Leland hooked me up with Brian Tierney, his classmate's father, and Brian found me a publisher, mentioned the name of a publisher, and we got started. And the thing that I thought was going to be frightening turned out to be therapeutic. It was wonderful to think about that. In the beginning, I wasn't going to include the chapter where I became addicted to opioids. I thought that's private, you know, we'll keep that in the family. But then I realized that if I was going to share my truth, if I was going to be authentic, then I had to share that part. That was where I might be able to help the most. But I want to take you back about 50 years and tell you a little bit about where my story begins. I was born in Washington, D.C., but soon after, my father went back to college, and he moved us back to a little town in Institute, West Virginia. Unincorporated, population about 2,700. It was also known as Chemical Valley. On one side of our house was carbide, the other side DuPont. This might later play a role in this mysterious illness that I suffered. It would be a big question. That's where I developed a passion for writing and anything having to do with anything literary. I used to write plays in 3rd grade at Institute Elementary School. Last year they had the first reunion at Institute Elementary, and I went back and saw friends I hadn't seen in 45 and 50 years. But I walked up the steps and to the right, and remember that's where I wrote those plays, and my principal actually came to that first reunion. She's 104 years old. And her 88-year-old mother wheeled her down the street in a wheelchair. And we had a grand old time. And so many of my friends and classmates remembered that play that I wrote that night, and I would cast them in it. I'd always cast myself in the lead role. And I remember the applause that night. And that love, and my father whispering in my ear that he was proud, that it wasn't too bad for a little girl from Institute, West Virginia. That love of writing and producing took me to Dunbar High, where we were the Bulldogs, and I was editor of the Kennel. And from there, everyone, or just about everyone, was going to go to West Virginia State College. It was a black college at the time. Most of my friends were going there because it was close, they could afford it. I didn't want that experience of walking across the street to college. I wanted a college experience in a dormitory where I could feel like I was on campus and part of the rest of the students. But to do that, I would have to find some money. My parents told me that they couldn't afford to send me down the road about 50 miles to Marshall University, where I hoped to go. And then I learned there was a scholarship contest. I applied for that scholarship and got a journalism award for the first year at Marshall University. Now you may remember Marshall University. The year that I went for orientation, we experienced probably the worst sports tragedy in sports history, college sports history. We lost our entire football team back in 1971, and there was a certain pall, an ominous sort of cloud that was cast over the university. But we, as black students, were united then, I think. 10,000 strong, 500, most of that team was black, and later they would dedicate a wing of the college to Nate Ruffin, who was the quarterback at the time. But I remember a special unity, and I had gone to become a magazine writer to study that. And that scholarship money ran out at the end of my first year. And an upperclassman friend of mine, knowing that I needed a job, told me about a position for a weather girl at the CBS affiliate in Huntington. I needed a job, so I went down and tried out. And lo and behold, I got that job. Now mind you, we were not meteorologists then, far from it. We were weather girls. And my name at that time was Lisa Howard. And I remember using that to remember the low pressure system and the high pressure system, LH, the 50 states. The only thing else I had to do was sort of look cute pointing to them. And I did that throughout my years in college on the weekends. There was one summer in my junior year where we all had a big conference in the tri-state area. That was Ohio, Kentucky, West Virginia. We went over to Ohio State. We had a lot of young weather girls around the country. That's what we were doing on television. And one of them was a young lady from Kentucky named Diane Sawyers. And we talked about how, you know, we didn't think that we wanted to make that a career, but if that was a way into the business, we were willing to do it. I continued that until my senior year when I wanted to dib and dab into news a little bit, and I asked the news director, might I be able to get this internship that they were giving for news? He gave me the keys to the car and gave me a 33mm camera, said, go find some news. So that's what I did. And that gave me so much experience during that time. When I graduated high school, the FCC, the Federal Communications Commission, was cracking down on local TV stations to hire women because most of the people you would see on the news were Caucasian men. Walter Cronkite, all the local markets. The FCC thought that the news should be more reflective of society. They wanted women and they wanted minorities. I was in the right place at the right time. I was a double minority and I had about, I guess, 8 offers from around the country. I chose Oklahoma City, Oklahoma, because my mother had a girlfriend that had gone to Fisk with her who lived in nearby Norman. She thought I'd have somebody to get in touch with if I needed to. I didn't want to go to Kentucky. Let's see, another one was way down in Mobile, Alabama, Florida. So Oklahoma was offering the most money at the time, about $14,000 a year. That was pretty darn good back then. And I took the job and went to Oklahoma. Boy, did I hate Oklahoma. It was so flat and so barren. They had an oil well on the Capitol lawn, for God's sake. But I learned so much there. I learned the nuts and bolts of TV news. Back then, we would work in pairs. And I was paired with a wonderful young man named Dave Smith. He still works in the business today and we keep in touch. Tall, blonde fellow. We would take the news van out, and by then we had graduated to CP16 cameras. Big cameras, about 9 pounds, you heave it on your shoulder. I'd shoot his story, he'd shoot my story, and we'd go back to the station, and we would literally retire to a small little room about the size of a closet, and we would cut and splice our film, do our audio, and our stories would be on the air that evening. But I really had a hard time getting used to Oklahoma, other than learning the news. I called back and asked my boss in West Virginia, how long do you think I need to stay here? He said, try to stick it out for a year. 8 months later, I got a call from Nashville, Tennessee. And I wanted to go there badly. Oklahoma was about the 50th, 52nd market. Nashville was the 33rd. I thought that was a pretty nice jump. So I went to Oklahoma for an interview to do education, to be the education reporter, educational news. I remember vividly sitting on the edge of my bed in my hotel room the night before my interview with the news director, Chris Clark, WTBF TV, and I turned on the news to see what it was like. Let's see what the station is producing. I was stunned. There was a young black woman delivering the news on the weekend, solo. It was a Sunday night. And I remember being spellbound. She was an average person like me. She looked to be about my age, but she was so poised and confident. And we were young, or I was young. But more than that, her voice just resonated with me. And I said to myself, boy, I hope I get to meet her tomorrow when I have my interview. The next morning, secretary escorts me in. Chris Clark tells me to sit outside the office for a minute, and I spot this young black woman across the newsroom. I go over to her and I said, hi, my name is Lisa Howard. I just had to tell you how impressed I was to see you anchoring the news and what a great job you were doing. She says, well, aren't you a tall drink of water? She says, how are you? My name is Oprah Winfrey. And Chris Clark, the news director, later told me that he had designated Oprah to show me the ropes, to show me around, teach me how to gather the news and present it. And she had a live shot and a regular story, and I was impressed all day. She told me she was impressed that I was making my own clothes, and we really hit it off. I discovered that we had both been born in 1954. We were both 19 years old. And she also told me that she thought she might be moving to Baltimore. She asked me what time I was leaving in the morning. She says, why don't you stay with me tonight at my apartment before I go to the hotel, and I'll tell you all about it. So she did. She was about to get a wonderful opportunity co-anchoring the news with a man down at WJZ in Baltimore. So she said, so if you get this job, I might be gone, but we'll stay in touch. We exchanged numbers. And sure enough, a couple weeks later, when I got the job to go to Nashville, she had already left and was going to Baltimore. But I loved Nashville. My mother had been to Fisk, there was Meharry, there was Vanderbilt, and there was so much to see and do, Grand Ole Opry. And I just had a wonderful time. Kept in touch with Oprah. She wasn't liking Baltimore too well. But meantime, there was a talent scout that came through and asked me if I might be interested in working in Philadelphia. It was, 1977. And I was thrilled because, remember, Nashville was about the 33rd market. Philly was, at that time, I thought, either number 4 or number 5. So that was really a big jump. And I went up and auditioned and waited for Joe to call me back, and he did, and he said, look, we are very pleased. We would like to offer you this job. There's just one little hang-up. We have a young man named Mark Howard, and you're Lisa Howard. We don't want any confusion. Would you mind changing your name? So I said, I guess I could do that. And I chose my mother's maiden name, Thomas. So I headed off to Philadelphia. And soon after I got there, they were looking for a morning talk show host. And they found a guy named Dave Thomas up in Buffalo. They said, Dave, we'd like to hire you. We got a Lisa Thomas. Would you mind changing your name? Dave said, okay, and somehow he came up with Roberts. I'm not sure how. They paired me, in the meantime, with a young man who was probably the best person I could have been paired with, because I had a few troublesome months at Channel 6. I was 23 by then. I had never anchored before. I was doing the new news, and they didn't like everything that I was doing or saying. Or they paired me with Jim O'Brien. A lot of you remember Jim O'Brien. He was considered the goofy weatherman. But what people don't realize is that Jim probably cared more about that station than anybody. And he took me under his wing when they were telling me that I had too much of an Appalachian accent and that I was mispronouncing too many words like Conshohocken and Schuylkill and Punxsutawney Phil. And they wanted to get me a voice coach, and they wanted my hair to be not so big and curly. So they were working on that. Meantime, Jim is looking at all this, and he says, in a way that only Jim could, Lisa, blank 'em. Blank 'em. You're a good news reader. Do what you do best, and put them out of your mind. You've got to focus on this. So they did get me a voice teacher. I remember her name, Julia Wing from Temple. And she came in and she taught me how to breathe from my diaphragm and speak a universal dialect. And they sent me across the street to a hairstylist named Maurice Tannenbaum. He straightened my hair and he thinned my hair. And I had the traditional little anchor bob. And Jim worked on the mispronunciations with me. We brought a list of boroughs and streets and anything that I might trip up on. And he waited till I was very comfortable behind the news desk and confident that he liked to play tricks on me. They were pretty bad. They were pretty rough tricks. One day he saw in the teleprompter that I was about to do a story on the Schlitz brewery up in the Northeast. You know what he changed in the teleprompter. Same thing I just said. When I said Schlitz beer live on television, he was on the floor rolling. And later had the nerve to say, I like the way you recovered. So we had some good old times. And of course, it lasted about 5 years. Because in 1983, we lost Jim in a skydiving accident up in Schwanksville. And it hit us like it would a family, a close family. I think many of you may remember where you were when that happened. And I remember thinking, what would we do? What's going to happen with the ratings? And we just vowed to continue the legacy. And I had to recall a time when Jim, in one of his funnier moments, was getting to the bottom of that name game we had played when we all came, and he revealed that why, he wondered why all of us had changed our names. He was Jim Oldham, but on the air he was Jim O'Brien. Jim Gardner was Jim Goldman. And Dave explained that ethnic names were not so easily accepted back in the day. And then he picked on Mark a little bit. He said, Mark, you're the one that started all this. You were Lisa Howard, and Lisa couldn't be her own name. And what's your name? And Mark wouldn't tell him. So he kept poking at him, and then he went upstairs to the business office and did some digging around and came back down, and he said, Mark, your name was Mummerstein. You know why Mark changed his name. But Jim had passed, and we all had to go about our way and do the job that he would want us to do. I remember after a few weeks realizing that it was a watershed moment for me, because I assumed Jim's job at 5 o'clock, doing the news with Mark Howard, doing some of the parades that he had done with Dave Roberts, the Thanksgiving Day parade and 4th of July parade. And life was good, life was good for about 20 years. I remember in actually it was 2001. I had married, I had 2 young sons then. I was at the height of my career, making more money than I thought I would ever make. I was in the best health. I was working out and had a trainer come that would power walk with me after I took the boys to school. And then one day I started experiencing some strange sensations in my legs. Pins and needles, numbness, sometimes very painful stabbing. I ignored it at first, then my husband, a doctor, convinced me to have an ENG, a nerve conduction study. And it determined that I had indeed lost about 30% of the strength in my feet and ankles. But we didn't know why. My husband took me to a mentor, a friend of his, a doctor who was at that time chief of neurology at Llanarch Hospital. He did tests for about a day, and at the end of the day, he told me he thought I had a very rare syndrome called POEMS. P-O-E-M-S, like a rhyming poem, an acronym. P for polyneuropathy, O for organomegaly, which was enlarged organs, E for the endocrine system. I had suddenly developed hypothyroidism. M was the big one, the monoclonal gammopathy. Most people have about 250 to 400 platelets in their body. I had 1.4 million, off the chart. Skin changes was the S, and I had begun to notice a bluish-grayish tint to my extremities, my hands, my ankles, my feet. Couldn't figure out exactly why, but thinking it was poems, we thought we were on the right path. Until Dr. Kenton, my husband's mentor, told us that he actually couldn't treat me because he was going to be leaving Llanarch to do medical research at Marrow down in Atlanta. So he referred me to a doctor, a neurologist at Johns Hopkins, and then another blood doctor at Llanarch. The two of them followed his diagnosis for quite a while. And then they put their heads together, the oncologist and the neurologist, and decided I didn't have poems after all. I had something called CIDP, chronic inflammatory demyelinating polyneuropathy. They were certain of it. They dismissed Kenton's diagnosis. We kept it in the back of our minds, and we were on the phone in Atlanta with Dr. Kenton. But they treated me with a blood cleansing treatment called plasmapheresis and steroids. Now, you know that anybody who's had steroids or knows someone who has, a loved one, knows that sometimes it can mask your symptoms. So there were days when I thought, sure, this is working. There were other days when I wasn't so sure. And we followed this treatment as they wanted us to for about 3 6-week periods on and off. I was determined that I was getting worse. My husband thought that I probably wasn't getting better. And we struggled and struggled with this. The months went by. I tried to go back to work. 3 months later, I had a paralyzed vocal cord. So I took some time off. I thought it would be just a little while, and it ended up being more than 9 months. An otolaryngologist downtown told me that I had this paralyzed larynx, and that it was probably caused by the same thing that was causing my antibodies in my legs to attack the myelin, the sheath or lining of my nerves. That made sense to us, but my attending physicians said no. They thought it was totally separate. They would deal with that later. This went on. I tried some unconventional therapy down in Florida until finally Dr. Kenton said, look, I have discovered a doctor at the Mayo Clinic, and a lovely Italian woman, an oncologist, who has written the standard of care for poems, because he never let go of that diagnosis. And we sort of suspected that maybe there is. We went up to the Mayo Clinic, and I had about every test I could have. I had tests that I'd already had, new ones. I was pretty sick by this time. I had been in leg braces, but by this time I was wheelchair bound. I had a paralyzed vagus nerve. I had the larynx was paralyzed, the left vocal cord, and I was pretty darn sick. But this young woman, Angela Dispenzieri, did these tests, and at the end of the week on a Friday, my husband and I are sitting in her office. She walks in rather matter-of-factly and says, "You have poems, you had it all along, it's shutting you down. You need a bone marrow transplant, and I can get you almost 100% again." But I was too sick. So she sent me home to build me up for a few weeks, about 6 weeks, to give me chemotherapy to wipe out those bad cells, to build up my pulmonary, my respiratory, to get me strong enough to withstand this bone marrow transplant. And so I went back a couple of weeks early, right before my 50th birthday, back in 1994, and I had the bone marrow transplant. It wasn't quite as bad as I thought, but it strips you clean. You know, you have no immune system. It makes you very, very weak. It took 2 months to recover. My mother traveled with me. And afterwards, everything started to come back. My vocal cord was better. My digestion and the nerve in my stomach improved. Everything except the permanent damage of the nerves in the legs. And of course, that was because it took so long. So we were thrilled. We were absolutely thrilled. And I made plans to come back to work. And you know, you go through something like that. I remember before I came back to work being sent on an assignment because Oprah and my paths had crossed. Because they had crossed, I was designated sort of the Oprah reporter. She was having the 25th anniversary of her show. And I asked to do it. They sent me with a producer to go up there. And I remember she turned the tables on me after I interviewed her, and she interviewed me, and she said, "I had no idea you were so sick." And she said something no one else had mentioned or asked. She said, "Did you think you were going to die?" And I immediately said, "No, never." And I remember never thinking that I would die, but now wondering why that was. My mother was a devout Catholic, and she had raised us all in some Catholic school, but none of us, my 3 brothers nor I, had followed Catholicism. But what I realized was that it had laid that foundation for me, that foundation of faith and spirituality, and the belief that there was something bigger than myself, something stronger from which my strength sprang. And I knew that that was what, and the belief that I had more to do for some reason. So now when I ask myself, what have I learned from all of this? The first thing I learned was that you really don't, or really shouldn't, sweat the small stuff. I was a type A personality. All the little things had to be in order, and you really don't have to be that. You must believe in yourself. The other thing I learned is you must be an advocate for your own health care. That is so important. I was an educated woman. My husband was a doctor. We felt we asked all the right questions. But in hindsight, we could have asked more. And you know, if you have a doctor that isn't looking you in the eye, if you have a doctor that doesn't have the best bedside manner, who isn't explaining things the way you can understand it, you have the right to leave, to seek a second, third, fourth, fifth opinion if you have to. You must do it, and you must do your homework and your research and know the questions to ask. I also learned that you should never, never give up. And you think about it, because Bobby Bonds didn't give up, there are hundreds, perhaps thousands of people today living in the freedom of recovery. I was told by that doctor that saved my life when I asked her, "This OxyContin prescription you gave me, I'm a little worried because there's addiction in my family, will it cause me any problems? She said immediately, oh no, you won't have any trouble. And what I would learn later was that there was some awareness that was needed. She felt because we were part of a certain economic socio level status, my husband was a doctor, I was a newscaster, I certainly wouldn't have trouble with addiction. Well, I did. I became addicted to that OxyContin. And when everything else physically was improving with me, what I neglected to do was to check the level of OxyContin. I was at a level where I was living comfortably. I had taken a couple extra now and then, or half extra, and it took a trip to Philadelphia International for me to realize it. My son that I mentioned, who talked me into writing the book, was planning to visit Rio, for Carnival, to see his roommate at UVA. And we took him to the airport. He had gotten the time wrong, and he missed the flight. So I got on my phone, and I found a flight out of Dulles Airport outside of Washington, and realized you could make that connection to Chicago and still go to Rio and see his best friend. So I thought, wow, you know, I don't have that nighttime dose, that evening dose of OxyContin. So I asked my husband, I said, you think I'll be okay? I think I'll be okay. Boy, was I not okay. I realized on the way back that I no longer knew my threshold for pain. I was so irritable and so cranky and so fidgety. My husband had to put the child locks on the car. I was trying to jump out of the car. I was so uncomfortable. I crawled up in the back seat and covered myself with a blanket and never knew that that was the reaction I would have if I missed a dose of a little pill. But I needed help. And we made it home. I never left the car. My husband brought me my dose of Oxy to the car. I took it. The next morning I called the Mayo and I said, do you have a drug rehab, some kind of dependency program? They did, and I was there in 3 weeks. I left that problem behind, thank goodness, and would never want to visit it again. And I know it's not as easy for many, many people who have addiction, but because I tasted a little bit of that, I started to understand what had happened to my father and his brother and other people in our families, and I knew that perhaps me sharing some of this could help. But what my doctor would later acknowledge was that, yeah, she knew what to do about the bone marrow transplant and cleansing my blood and helping me, but she had no idea that if I was smart enough and my husband was accomplished enough, we might still have a problem with addiction. Surely we knew enough not to get addicted. And she knew she was wrong, and she admitted it. And that's what so many doctors still have to do. And Dan talked about the stigma. There is still a stigma. When my book came out, and I went to my alma mater down in Marshall, the new president of the school had asked me to come down to sign my books and sell them and see the homecoming game. And I got a call from Channel 10, the news director there, Anzio Williams. My publisher had sent him a book, and he said, Lisa, we are doing a series on opioid addiction. Would it be appropriate to ask you, I know you've been at Channel 6 all these years, but would it be appropriate to ask you to let a reporter come to your house and you talk about it? And I immediately said, yes, I don't have a problem with that at all. Now, I did the interview with Erin Coleman. She was a lovely girl, was pleased with the product. But when the promos aired, I remember a little bit about what we did in television. The promos are to get your attention and to grab you and bring you in to watch this. And I was a little uneasy about the promos because it was talking about Lisa's dark secret and please watch Tuesday night. And I cringed a little bit and thought, you know, was this the right thing to do? When the story aired, I was very happy. It gave a lot of information. I thought Aaron Coleman did a wonderful job. But I still had a little misgivings about the way it was presented. And then the next morning, I got a call from Monica Malpass. And I thought she was just going to mention seeing the newscast, seeing my story. But she said she had some bad news. Some of you will remember a young woman named Anita Brickman. She was our health reporter for many years. And Monica said that she had just gotten word that morning that they had found her 21-year-old son in his dorm room, dead from an overdose. My sons, 33 and 36, have lost 4 very good friends to overdoses or suicide in the last 4 years. It is truly an epidemic. And I knew at that moment when Monica called that I indeed had made the right choice. I wanted people to know that this is real. It can happen to any of us. It can happen to that little newscaster, that newswoman that comes into your living room every night. So I've learned all this through my journey. And I've also learned that we've got to start forgiving ourselves and loving ourselves. And that love must be internalized. I think Bobby Bonds probably told many, many people that who are trying to recover from addiction. But when you think about it, forgiving yourself, an apology isn't really worth much unless you are able to forgive yourself. Each of us has a right to a happiness that transcends all the materialistic forces that surround us. Each of us has a right to a joy that we nurture and sustain from the wellspring of our being. We can't give love until we have love to give. And we only have love to give when we love ourselves. So I'm wishing all of you tonight good health, faith, joy, peace, and love.
Lisa, thank you so much. Really, really inspirational.